SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
Have you been seriously injured? Mama Justice is here for you. Our medical team partners with top-notch doctors, surgeons, therapists, and urologists, ensuring a comprehensive recovery journey. If you've been injured, call Mama Justice today. We're here for you.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Mississippi.
Everything gonna be all right this morning.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Oh, yeah.
Here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Woo! Now, when I was a young boy, at the age of 5, my mother said I was gonna be the greatest man alive. But now I'm a man, way past 21. I want you to believe me, baby. I have lots of fun.
Hey, good morning. A little chilly out on this Tuesday. This is Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. Thanks for starting your day, at least part of your day, with us. Hope you got a good hot cup of coffee ready to go. You may need it this morning. Burr. If you weren't expecting that when you walked outside, sweater, jacket, something light going to warm up, going to be nice across most of the state of Mississippi today. Lance Tolbert, good morning to you.
Well, basically, you play the windbreaker off the sweater. You know, caddy stand. That was his advice to Kramer. So, you know, if you have that, that's in your bag, play it. But, yeah, a little cool this morning. I noticed it last night while I was up a little late reading and catching up. And I was like, man, this is nice. There was none of the gnats out yet, you know, which I've been fighting for a week. I don't know if any of y'all have, but, man, the gnats down here in central Mississippi have been rough.
Yeah, we have been fortunate on gnats so far. I just keep those away. It's just frustrating.
Yeah, they're bugs. They bug you.
Yeah, to your point, 2 nights ago, Sunday night, I walked out to my office, I don't know, whatever time it was. It was dark already, and had a little bit of prep left to do. And about barefooted. It's like, oh, this is nice. There was no barefoot last night.
Yeah, a little cool.
It was long pants and a hoodie, but it is going to be nice today. Byhalia. You're going to start out with partly cloudy skies. Sun might peep out a little later on. High of around 72. The wind out of the east at 10 to 15 miles an hour. Duck Hill, going to be a little warmer for you. A little farther south you go. 78 degrees. Some clouds this morning. Mainly sunny skies this afternoon. Wind 5 to 10 for you out of the east-southeast. How about in Lance's neck of the woods? How about in Flora? Sunshine, some clouds. Knocking on 80's door today with winds out of the southeast at 10 to 15 miles an hour. And down on the Gulf Coast, Gaucher, you are mostly cloudy with a high of 76. Winds out of the east around 10 miles an hour. So a pretty darn good day in store all across the state of Mississippi. Wouldn't be a bad day to get out on the golf course. Might be a little windy to be on the water. Might be a little cool still to be on the water. I bet the water itself is still pretty darn chilly.
Yeah, I'm not getting in it right now. Doing a little polar bear
not quite
dance.
time.
No, not yet. Yeah, but golf that sounds amazing. Getting out on the reservoir or on the water, probably a good day. I've seen so many big fish, bass caught recently that it's. I'm very envious. I think I shot you a pic of one of the guys here in the building last week, and they'd gone out and kicked around out in the country a little bit, and 5-pounder. That big mouth bass, boy, that thing looks pretty, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I mean, the colors on that one were
just so beautiful.
It was just the way the sun was hitting in the picture or what, but really, really good stuff. It's all the boy wants to do. But my boy, Obi, just wants to get that hook in the water. 1939, Phil Necro was born today.
Yeah, you dug around to find these. I'm proud of you, too, because the list that I had was brutal.
Yeah, it wasn't
When
great.
I saw Phil Necro, I'm like, man, my guy, the sportsman.
American Baseball Hall of Fame pitcher. He was a knuckleballer. Threw a no-hitter in 1973. 5-time Major League Baseball All-Star. 5-time Gold Glove winner. Pitched with the Milwaukee/Atlanta Braves. Born in Blaine, Ohio. Phil Necro. It was a good one.
Yeah, wasn't he? He picked up the knuckler in the minors, if I remember, or even in the pros, if I remember that right. But because he was a normal pitcher there for a bit, kind of like Tim Wakefield and some of those. That picked up the knuckler later. Remember what was the kid from Tennessee that was so good? Richie or Ricky?
He was
a freshman, my freshman year in college in '93.
Okay.
And that kid, he was mid-'90s, 96, 97 in college. Couldn't hit him. And then he got to the pros, and something gave, and he started throwing the knuckleballer. And he I think, retired recently. But, man, those knuckleballers, trying to hit one, try to catch one. I mean, it's a specialty, man. You have a catcher just for that, the knuckleballer.
Yeah, they are R.A. Dickey. Is that who you're thinking about?
Thank you, man. I'm just an idiot sometimes.
C-Spire text line, John and Hurley coming in strong this morning with R.A. Dickey.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, that's the guy, and he was something else in college too. Freshman All-American, if I remember.
Do you ever find yourself in a YouTube rabbit hole?
Yes, every day.
Of course you do. All of us do at some point along the way. If you have found yourself in a YouTube rabbit hole, there is a chance, a pretty good chance, that 10 years ago or so, you were watching clips from America's Got Talent. Maybe you still do. And then there was the spinoff with Britain's Got Talent. And there was this lady that kind of waddled her way out on stage, and she had a dress that looked like it probably came from a thrift store and was... She just kind of talked like this, and there wasn't much to her. And the judges were kind of making fun of her. She's having a birthday today. She's 61 years old. Do you remember Susan Boyle? She was a cheeky little lad on stage visiting
To be a
with
professional
Simon.
singer.
And why hasn't it worked out so far, Susan?
I've never been given the chance before, but here's hoping it will change.
Okay, and who would you like to be as successful as?
Elaine Page.
Elaine
something like
Page.
that.
What are you going to sing tonight?
I'm going to sing I Dreamed a Dream from the Miserables.
Okay.
Big song.
You get a little chuckle and you hear, big song. You've watched this a million times, haven't you?
I dreamed a dream in time gone by.
And their faces are just like, whoa, what just happened? Who is that? And she just goes on and on with one of the all-time classics from the theater, from Les Miserables.
That's why I don't know it.
I know. Susan Boyle, 60, born in 1961. 1973, one of Lance's favorites.
I wonder where he's going to celebrate his birthday today.
Rachel Maddow. American radio and TV personality, political analyst with MSNBC, born in Castro Valley, California.
Yeah, probably a TGI Fridays for lunch or something, wouldn't you think?
Maybe so.
Get the wings or the boneless riblets.
Maybe
he looks like a riblet guy. We are.
You are on one this morning, aren't you, buddy?
Well, when I saw Rachel Maddow there, I was like, well, gonna have a little fun with that one.
I said Rachel, not Robert.
Yeah. Oh, man. But,
in 1945, on this day, the United States Ground Forces invaded Okinawa during World War II in the largest amphibious assault on the Pacific Theater, or of the Pacific Theater. The 82-day battle on Okinawa itself lasted from April 1st until June 22nd. The United States created the 10th Army. It was a cross-branch force consisting of the Army's 7th, 27th, 77th, and 96th Infantry Divisions, with the 1st, 7th, and 6th Marine Divisions to seize the island. 10th Army was unique because it had its own tactical air force that was a joint Army-Marine command and was supported by naval and amphibious forces. The Battle of Okinawa has been referred to as the Typhoon of Steel The nickname refers to the ferocity of the fighting, the intensity of the Japanese kamikaze attacks, and the sheer numbers of Allied ships and armored vehicles that assaulted the island. The battle was the bloodiest and fiercest in the Pacific Ocean. In that theater of war, some 50,000 Allied and around 100,000 Japanese casualties. In all, more than 150,000 souls lost in the Battle of Okinawa. What a piece of history! What a part of World War II that was. And if you talk or had the privilege to talk to someone who fought in World War II, the feelings that they had for the Japanese, not great. Even as for years and years and years, we have been in a good relation, an allied relationship with the country of Japan. Man, what a time in our nation's history. We got one more for you on this day when we come back. We got news headlines, sports headlines, and more. CC reminds us also that Okinawa is where Mr. Miyagi was from.
He took the words right out of my mouth, yeah.
Banzai, Dayo-san! Banzai, Mr. Miyagi!
From the Venable
Partner.
The sun is up, the coffee is on, and you're starting your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross here on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Go ahead, Mr. Stapleton.
Say that boy, sure living in luxury, sweet luxury.
On this day in 1976, Steve Wozniak and Steve Jobs founded Apple Computer in the garage of Steve's parents' house in Cupertino, California. It's why you have to have Cupertino time on your Apple products. Jobs, Wozniak, and Ronald Wayne, an experienced tech industry executive, formed a partnership to bring their vision to life. Steve Jobs named the company Apple because he liked the fruit and wanted a name that would be memorable and easy to pronounce. Wozniak designed and hand-built the Apple I. It was a computer sold as a motherboard-only kit, which was the first product ever from Apple. Now, I mentioned another guy, Ronald Wayne. He was part of this trio of founders at Apple. Initially held a 10% stake in the company, but he sold his shares back to Jobs and Wozniak just a few weeks after they founded the company. 10% for $800.
He must have been like the guy that went and got the pizzas and the beer. Said, I'm done, man. I can't keep doing this. Here, y'all just buy me out.
The Apple II, designed by Wozniak, was a more commercially successful product featuring a self-contained system with a plastic case and a keyboard. And all of the things that follow came. You know, it really is interesting. Wozniak was kind of more the technical guy, and Steve Jobs was kind of more the vision and the art and the functionality guy. They made it work. Boy, did they make it work. Need to say thank you to CC. CC in Senatobia is the one who texted it a minute ago and said, Okinawa, also where Mr. Miyagi is from. And CC, anytime you mention something Karate Kid related, takes me to a very special place in my childhood and my teenage years and my adulthood and even today.
Yeah, we had fun in the break, yeah.
Because I find myself at the Valley Karate Championships with Danielson gaining confidence fight by fight. Gotta believe in yourself.
You're the best.
The All Valley Championship. That was Johnny's house.
Yeah.
That Daniel just walked into and took right over.
Billy Zabka. Well,
and who could lose?
Yeah.
Who among us could have even considered losing that tournament with Allie in our corner?
No. They didn't make it in the long run, right?
Elizabeth Shue.
Yeah.
80s heartthrob.
I think she met, what was it? She must have gone down to the Bahamas after that and met up with Tom Cruise and Cocktail. That's just what happened to Danielson. You got left, but still, it was a nice run, Daniel. You did good.
Well, maybe she had the babysitting to. Was Adventures in Babysitting pre or post Karate Kid? I don't
think
know.
That was going on at the same time, maybe.
Oh, me.
I love the Karate Kid movies, though. Really do. I mean, we were laughing in the break, though. But what great movies. And then you had the setting was Okinawa for the number 2. Sato, oh, Miyagi, oh, dishonor, Miyagi. Sitting there hammering on that big plank.
Yeah. Couldn't break it. Couldn't break it. And Miyagi.
Miyagi-san.
Miyagi. 2007 American super swimmer Michael Phelps smashed his very own world record in the 400-meter individual medley. I don't care what you're swimming, 4:06.22 to swing 400 meters feels pretty good to me. That was to win his record 7th gold medal at the World Championships in Melbourne. It really feels like it's just worth reading his accomplishments from time to time. Most successful and most decorated Olympian of all time. 28 total Olympic medals. Holds the all-time records for Olympic golds with 23. Olympic gold medals in individual events, 13 of those. Olympic medals in individual events, 16 of those. He's a former long course world record holder in the 200-meter freestyle, the 100-meter butterfly, the 200-meter butterfly, the 200-meter individual medley, and the 400-meter individual medley.
I mean, who thought up the butterfly? You know, I mean, really, who thought that up? I don't know who that guy or gal was. It's like it's just not natural.
Between the Olympics, the World Championships, and the Pan-Pacific Championships, he has won 82 medals, 65 of which were gold. Whew.
And I bet he can crush a bag of Doritos in about 2 minutes.
Yeah, pretty good golfer now, too.
Really?
Yeah. Had to find something. Somebody says he should donate his body to science.
Dude's a beast.
Oh, I'm sorry. They're talking about Ralph Macchio. I thought we were talking about Michael Phelps should donate his body to science.
Oh,
this says Ralph Macchio is 91 years old and he still looks 16. He should donate his body.
I don't even think he's shaving yet. Yeah. He doesn't even have to shave. He looked, what was it, like 30 when they did the Karate Kid?
You remember when Phelps was about to swim and he had his little routine where he'd get loose and he'd stand right there on the edge of the pool and kind of bend over at the waist and he started kind of swinging his arms and he crossed them underneath and then he threw them backwards and those things doggone wrapped all the way around his back.
He's got wings.
Side too.
Yeah, he's got. That's what I was saying with the butterfly. Watching him do the butterfly was just a thing of beauty. And then you go try to do that yourself, and you look like somebody shot your dog and threw it in the pool. You know, just trying to get out. I mean, that's what I look like. So
today in the Magnolia State, we have municipal elections, local races for mayor, city council, board of aldermen, and more that are taking place across the state. Couple of things you need to remember. Any registered voter may participate in either the Democrat or Republican primary. You don't register by party affiliation in the event of a runoff. You stick to the party for which you voted today. Interestingly enough, I saw a lot of people encouraging folks in Jackson who generally would vote on the Republican side of things to vote in the Democrat primary as opposed to the Republican primary. I mean, sometimes you got to look at the races and see what's out there, and you're like, okay, I need to vote in this primary so that I may vote for this person or may vote against this person. Polls open about 32 minutes from right now. 7 a.m. They are open until 7 p.m. tonight. If you were in line at 7 o'clock, you may vote. Bring a photo ID, government-issued photo ID. You'll be fine. Driver's license, government ID card, passport, you're good.
At the big Supreme Court race up in Wisconsin tonight between Crawford and Schimmel.
Yeah.
That'll be a big one, yeah. A lot of money flowed into that.
Well, and there's an amendment on the ballot there, too. I was reading about that last night. We'll get back to that here in a second. Mississippi, for 2024, second nationally in real GDP growth. I feel like I need to say that out loud again.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
The state of Mississippi for the 2024 calendar year was second nationally in gross domestic product growth. It was a growth rate of 4.2% adjusted for inflation. It represents a little over $1.25 billion increase year over year, 23 to 24. The adjusted rate of 6.7% reflects an increase of $2.5, almost $2.6 billion. Governor Tate Reeves said the fact that Mississippi is number 2 in the nation for real GDP growth shows how much momentum our state has. We've done the hard work laying the foundation for record-breaking economic success, and I'm proud of what we've been able to accomplish. This is another big win for our state and the people who live here. The agriculture, forestry, fishing, and hunting sectors were major contributors to the growth. That sector alone grew 1.17% year over year. That's really, really interesting. What a job. Well, I mean,
you don't stop here though, do you? You keep the pedal down.
No, you don't. And that's the interesting thing is that I think you have communities and county groups that are seeing the success of some alliances that have happened in the state and are getting ready to try to emulate that so that this turns into like a butterfly effect in Mississippi, which is really cool. We're back with you after this. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
No matter where you're from, Abbeville, Batesville, D'Iberville, or any other ville in the SIP, you're starting your day off right. Mornings with Richard Cross. SuperTalk, Mississippi.
I came here looking for something.
So let me get this right, Lance. With all of your eccentricities, with all of the random things that you like and the random things that you have knowledge about, it's me who's a nut.
I'm musical.
Because of
you were singing and bellowing.
Variety of musical taste.
I love it, man. You got to have a little crazy in you, and that's one of the things I want our listeners to understand. Is this man Richard Cross is more than a morning host and a sports expert and an amazing broadcaster. He's also a cultured individual who can sing. And you missed it. That. You missed it. I wish I could have turned it on and let him listen to you bellow. Good stuff.
Probably don't need to do that.
Good stuff, man.
Probably don't need to do that. Have you seen, heard, or read the story about a guy named Marcus Lemonis?
Chris's bro?
Not Chris's bro.
Okay, good.
This Lemonis, Marcus Lemonis, is the CEO of Camping World, a national RV dealer with stores in over 200 locations. He's been in the news over the last couple of years because of what he is not willing to do. You know what he's not willing to do, Lance? He is not willing to remove the massive American flags that wave outside of his dealerships.
Good for him.
And he is fighting the good fight, most recently in Greenville, North Carolina, most publicly in Sevierville, Tennessee. City leaders in Greenville voted 4-2 last week to initiate legal action to take down the American flag at a Camping World dealership. That vote came amid another lawsuit that has been filed by the city of Sevierville, Tennessee. Now,
isn't that a pretty conservative place? I mean, I've been there.
Yes. Now, let me tell you the rest of the story. It's not just that he's flying an American flag. There doesn't seem to be an issue with his patriotism. It is his outsized patriotism that is an issue. So his quote was this: "Not when they sue me, not when I lose, not if they take me to jail. The flag is not coming down." That's what he told the city council last week when they voted to authorize the filing of civil action against the company. He says, "While I respect the city council's position, and while I understand they have the right to sue me, and they're going to, and I understand I have the right to defend myself, the flag is never coming down. They need to sue me, not the business, because I put the flags up everywhere." So the flag in question is a 3,200 square foot American flag. It is 80 by 40. It flies on a pole that stands 130 feet tall, almost double the size of what is currently allowed in Greenville, North Carolina. On Monday, Lamonis posted an image of a complaint that was filed in March by the city of Sevierville, which had requested the removal of a 100-foot flagpole on its property. That one flies also a 40-foot by 80-foot American flag. If you've ever seen one of these, you've seen the oversized flag. You ever been to Baton Rouge? A lot of people have been to Baton Rouge before. And you know there's that building on I-12 as you're coming in that's got the huge American flag, and then they fly a huge LSU flag there as well. That's what we're talking about. And he's got these at his stores, and they've said you are in violation of code. In Sevierville, he's been getting daily fines. And they're just racking up, and he says, "I don't care, I'll pay them." But the fines are not having the intended effect, and so they said you got to bring it down. And he says, "Nope, not happening. Not happening." Dave says
we've got the biggest flag in the world, that I've ever seen is in Flowood. And maybe another one around, but there's right there at Dogwood. It's a big one.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
There's a huge one off I-55,
apparently there's a Camping World on 55 South, just 55 just south of Interstate 20. Said he's got one of those there as well. That's what Johnny and Brandon says. Good deal. Fight the good fight, Marcus Lamonis. The field for the women's Final Four is set. UCLA, number 1 seed, facing UConn, the number 2 seed, and a pair of teams from the SEC, number 1 seeds South Carolina and Texas. Those are the 4 teams still alive for a national championship on the women's side. Texas beat TCU last night to advance. Vic Schaefer, head coach at Texas, former women's head coach at Mississippi State. So, women's Final Four moving on. Those games will be on April 4th. Today is April 1st. It is April Fool's, so be aware of that, just in case you have forgotten. Thomas in Greenwood says that Lamonis gets increased sales and city council member challengers get a campaign platform. I don't know. Maybe so. Maybe it's a calculated business move by Lamonis. Dave says that is called a post flag. All right. I'll trust you on that. Yeah, baseball action today in the Magnolia State. Ole Miss hosting Jackson State. That game goes first pitch just after 4 o'clock in Oxford at Swayze Field. Mississippi State is on the road tonight, taking on the Memphis Tigers in the Bluff City. And Southern Miss at Pete Taylor Park. They've got Tulane coming to town tonight. Yesterday we told you that Jake Mangum made his Major League Baseball debut. and it always will be a memorable night. He reached base safely once, going 0 for 3 with a walk. Start number 2 was a little bit better for Jake Mangum. He was interviewed on the Tampa Bay Rays television network after the game. A couple minutes long here. Take a listen. This was Jake after a 4 for 4 night at the plate last night.
Mr. Mayor, have yourself a night, man. 4 for 4, couple of stolen bases. You knock in a couple of runs. Take me back, though, to that first major league hit. I saw you when you got to first base. You saluted the friends and family section. What was going through your mind at that moment, Jake?
Well, really the fact that it was a 6-hole single. That's kind of been a lot of hits for me there. So over my whole life. So the 6-hole thing, that was funny. But man, it was really cool for me. Like my high school guy was Adam Frazier. Watching him play at Mississippi State, and to be able to have just to take the field against him, that was awesome for me. But the night was unbelievable. Great team win, and we can get to go win a series tomorrow night.
Junior saved that ball for you. Any idea of what you're going to do with it?
Mom's gonna do something with it. Stacy's gonna do something with it. Not sure what it'll be, but she'll have it somewhere in the house.
It has been so much fun getting to know your story over these last couple of days. Just the motivation, the determination that it took to get to this point. The 3-hour Uber ride and the early morning flight for your major league debut. And then today, what have the last 72 hours been like for you, Jake?
Well, it's been 3 days of craziness. Getting to the big leagues day 1, being in the dugout, playing in game 2, and then tonight just getting the first hit out of the way, and then it was after that first hit, it was just take a deep breath, let's go win a ball game. And it's been so much fun. This clubhouse is phenomenal. What the staff preached all spring training, we're seeing that come to fruition already. It's taken the whole 40-man roster. Having Mize hit a walk-off game 1, and it's taking everybody, man.
You also got a serenade from this crowd here. I think you're quickly becoming a fan favorite, Jake. How cool was that?
That was cool. That was cool, man. This is all surreal. Glory to God. I would not be here without him. I'm far from perfect, but he's been with me every step of the way.
Well, the SEC's Hick King gets his first couple of knocks here in the majors. Jake, congratulations. Go enjoy it with the fellas.
Absolutely. God bless and raise up.
Love what he said there at the beginning when they said, what was going through your mind after that first hit? And he laughed about slapping one through the 6-hole. If you're a Mississippi State fan, if you're a fan of anybody that watched Jake Mangum play, you saw that more times than one, where he took one and just drove it through the opposite side of the infield and kind of ripped one over past the shortstop for another base hit. What a cool story.
Good Flowwood
Doesn't sound
boy.
like your normal rookie in the big leagues, does he?
No, pretty salty. Been around the block. Guy knows how to hit a little bit, and he's a local favorite here too in the Jackson area. Flowwood boy, Jackson Prep, an amazing career at Mississippi State, and I'm so happy to see him get up and have a night like that. Wow, 4 for 4. You're never going to forget the first at bat or the first game, but you surely are not going to forget a 4 for 4 second game.
Yeah. No question. I think I mentioned this yesterday or told this story yesterday, but for all that he's accomplished on the field, it's the way that he treats people that stands out for me. Was at Old Waverly a couple of years ago. Had my son with me. Obi was with me. I guess he was 10 at the time, and introduced him to Jake. And man, Jake, it was like I disappeared, and he just connected with my 10-year-old son. And I got a picture of him. I actually sent him a message last night and told him congratulations. And I said, you're not going to remember this, but I'm not ever going to forget it. Congrats on all the baseball stuff, but the way you treat people's really, really cool. And he responded late last night and said he's having a ball. So happy for Mississippi native and former Mississippi State Bulldog Jake Mangum. There are a lot of guys that hang it up before they get to be 29 years old. They're like, you know what, this dream's not going to happen. And he never has given up on the dream. He was older when he got into the big leagues because he played 4 years in college, and it is coming true. Hope he's there for a while. We got a lottery update for you coming up next on Mornings with Richard Cross.
From the... Right, now to the important stuff.
Your VIP pass to hear what the most influential Mississippians are talking about.
This is very important.
Huge news. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Time for your daily Mississippi Lottery update. Online, you can find the lottery at mslottery.com. This is Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. We start, as we do every day, with Lotto America. No jackpot winner in the most recent drawing. That was last night. So you've got a jackpot coming up tomorrow of closing in on $28.5 million. The estimated cash value, $13,300,000. Last night's drawing, numbers were 11, 24, 33, 38, 47. The Star Ball was 1, and the All-Star bonus multiplier was 2. The Powerball reset yesterday after Saturday night's winner. There was no winner last night, so Wednesday's drawing is worth $30 million. Estimated cash value of just shy of $14 million. Monday night's numbers were 12, 41, 44, 52, 64. The Powerball was 25, and the Power Play multiplier was 2.
Well, you think whenever you have the big win like that, the old Price is Right. If the next guy wins it, you kind of how he feels. You have $32 million. The previous guy like $400 million. Well, double play numbers from Monday, March 31st: 244, 52, 65, and 66. Powerball of 12. No Mega Millions winner yet after the reset. Estimated jackpot for tonight, Tuesday, April the 1st, $29 million. Estimated cash value, $13.3 million. And the numbers from Friday, 2, 9, 31, 60, 63. Mega Ball of 23, Mega Player Multiplier 5.
Speaking of Mega Millions, the big changes are coming on Saturday. Starting this Saturday, April 5th, the multi-state lottery game is getting a mega makeover. And it actually, launches this Saturday. Bigger jackpots starting at $50 million. Faster growing jackpots, a built-in multiplier on every play, boosting non-jackpot prizes up to $10 million. And there are no more break-even prizes where you buy a $2 ticket and you get a $2 prize. Every win is worth at least double your play. Game changes launch on Saturday. First drawing of the enhanced game is next Tuesday. Each play is now $5. Mega Millions has already created over 1,300 millionaires since 2017, and you could be next. Drawings are every Tuesday and Friday. They happen at 10 o'clock Central Time, and you can get your ticket and get in the game. For more details, visit mslottery.com. Mississippi Match 5, there was no jackpot winner. The estimated jackpot for tonight, $54,000. Monday night's drawing, 7, 9, 20, 26, 29.
Well, the Cash 3 $500 midday number is 534. The evening, you had a triplet there with 888 on the Cash 3 $500. Cash for $5,000 midday number, 6827. Evening, 1175. Fireball was 6 both in the midday and evening. You had a cash pop of 12 in the midday. The evening was 14.
Today may be April 1st, but this is no joke. You've got new April scratch-off games hitting retailers today. If you want to see what's hitting the shelves, tune in to the Mississippi Lottery Facebook Live at 10 a.m. this morning. New games, cash prizes, no fooling. Let's talk about some winners. Why don't you start us off, Lance, with some Cash 4 winners?
Cash 4, I'm going to hit some of the bigger ones here since we have a laundry list of winners. Pearl Man with $1,350 won over in Yazoo City at Exxon Fuel Mart. A Byram woman won $2,535 using 3 tickets from Brando's Tobacco in Byram. Canton woman, $2,600 on a ticket from Canton Discount Drugs. A Collins man won $2,700. A Bay Springs man also won $2,700, and the big winner in Cash 4, Lexington man, $5,000 richer on a ticket from Neighbors Market in Canton, Mississippi.
I had a bunch of $1,250 winners in Cash Pop scratch-offs. A Tupelo woman on a ticket from Sprint Mart, a Columbus man on a ticket from Sprint Mart in Columbus, a Sugarlac man, $1,250 on a ticket from T Quick Stop in Macon. A Pontotoc man, $1,250 on a ticket from La Pincanita in Pontotoc. And then a Gulfport player won $7,500 across 6 tickets from TCB Stop and Go in Gulfport. I think that's a hot streak of scratch-offs.
Yeah, that's a record there, I would say. Mega Millions, Brandon woman won $2,500 on a ticket from Barry's Quick Stop in Brandon. You also had the $2 10 times the money winner. A Laurel woman, $2,500 on a ticket from Big B in Laurel. And Then the $5 Pink Panther Diamond Tripler winner, and I got that out right.
There you go.
Yeah, Hazelhurst woman won $1,500 on a ticket from MSI Gas and Food in Crystal Springs.
Corinth man cashed in on a $5 scratch-off. It was a cash-tastic ticket, $2,500 on a ticket from Blue Sky in Corinth. Had a $10 scratch-off Extreme Payday winner, $5,000 to a Baldwin man on a ticket from JB's One Stop in Pontotoc. And a Maven man won $2,000 on a $20 scratch-off 200-time cash blitz. That was from Sprint Mart in Maben. Congratulations to all the winners. You can keep up with what's happening at the Mississippi Lottery at mslottery.com. Quick time out. We're back with you for the 7 o'clock hour. Could Donald Trump actually serve a third term as president of the United States? We will explore that. White House may be looking at taking some of the funding away from Harvard. Secretary of State Michael Watson will join us at 7:37. All that coming up, but the news is next.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on this show are not the opinions of TeleSouth Communications, its management, or advertisers.
Wake up, get up, and start your day right with Mornings with Richard Cross here on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
When in doubt, move on. No need to sort it out. You're with me now. We'll be again.
This hour of Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by MWG Employer Services. Running a business is tough, and if you're struggling with HR, benefits, and payroll, then you are not alone. That's where MWG Employer Services comes in. They provide a full range of employer services plus a custom plan that fits you. Give them a call today, 601-206-7966, or go to mwgemployerservices.com. We've got a busy week on the road for SuperTalk Mississippi. Tomorrow, middays with Gerard Gibbert will be at the Trade Mart in Jackson for the Build Mississippi Student Skills event. Students from all over the state will be competing in trades skills. Mississippi is leading the way in developing a future construction workforce, and this event is where hard work, training, and talent come together to showcase the future of the construction industry. Tomorrow, that's tomorrow for middays with Gerard Gibbert. Then on Thursday, the entire SuperTalk Mississippi team will be in West Point. April is Child Abuse Awareness Month. You can join the SuperTalk Mississippi team live at Sally Kate Winters Family Services in West Point. You will hear some of the inspiring stories and can help make a real difference in the lives of children in need. Tune in or stop by and see us. Sally Kate Winters Family Services in West Point to support the children. And then finally on Friday, Sports Talk Mississippi will be live at Scruggs Farm, Lawn, and Garden in Saltillo, right there next to Barnes Crossing, across the highway from Barnes Crossing in Tupelo, for the Drive Green Spring Sales Event. Deals on John Deere commercial mowers at 0% for 48 months, or you can get 0% for up to 72 months on all compact tractors. That's at Scruggs Farm, Lawn, and Garden in Saltillo, coming up on Friday for Sports Talk Mississippi. I don't know if you've ever been there or not, but that is a cool store.
Awesome place. Lived up in that neck of the woods for 21 years. Love that spot.
It is huge.
It's huge. It's a superstore with a local feel, you know.
Absolutely. So Donald Trump repeatedly has talked about a third term as president. In fact, in meeting with the press gaggle on Air Force One, he goes, really it'd be my fourth term because the election last time was stolen. So it has caused constitutional scholars to start digging and start answering questions about whether or not a third term is actually possible for Donald Trump. He's floated that idea and seemed to double down on it on a Sunday morning interview with NBC News, suggesting that, quote, there are methods, close quote, to do it, despite term limits that are set in both the 12th and 22nd Amendments of the Constitution. FDR, Franklin Roosevelt, is the only president in the history of the United States to serve more than 2 terms, ultimately sitting in office from 1933 until 1945. He died shortly after beginning his 4th term. His 3rd term was controversial, though. That's what Noah Rosenblum, a legal historian and constitutional law professor at NYU, said, noting that FDR's tenure broke from a precedent set by George Washington and drew accusations of dictatorial ambitions as well as a disrespect for democracy. This is a very academic quote from Mr. Rosenblum. He said, there are very few norms as deeply embedded in American democratic culture as the idea that the president serves 2 terms, and clever word games to try to get around to that are really nothing but attempts to undermine the clear text, spirit, and intention of the Constitution and this historical process that undergirds it. You may remember that George Washington, who very easily could have won a 3rd and maybe 4th and 5th term as president, said that no, that's not a good plan for the United States. Kings stay in power too long, and that's not what we are. We elect public officials, and nobody should serve more than 2 terms, myself included. It's the guy that literally was in charge when the United States became a country. So what is Donald Trump doing? Does he believe that there is a loophole in the Constitution? Does he have a lawyer that is telling him that this is okay? Or could it be that Donald Trump is moving the cheese, causing some news media people and maybe adversaries, certainly political opponents, to take their eye off the ball, to diffuse whether or not he is being struck down by district court judges or moving prisoners to El Salvador or whatever else by getting people to talk about a 3rd term? And it was kind of funny, actually. Peter Ducey asked him a very hypothetical question. This was yesterday in the Oval Office, a question about, well, exactly what we're talking about, the possibility of a 3rd term for Donald Trump.
If you were allowed, for some reason, to run for a 3rd term, is there a thought that the Democrats could try to run Barack Obama against you?
I'd love that.
For his 3rd term?
Boy, I'd love that. That would be a good one. I'd like that. No, people are asking me to run, and there's a whole story about running for a 3rd term. I don't know. I never looked into it. They do say there's a way you can do it, but I don't know about that.
So that was in the Oval Office yesterday. So I suppose the route to a 3rd term for Donald Trump, if we were really serious about this, would be a scenario where somebody else ran and then appointed him. Now, let's just use J.D. Vance as an example. J.D. Vance, currently Donald Trump's vice president, and he could, if he were to run for president, Trump would not be eligible to be his vice president. Mose points out that says an individual cannot be elected to the office for a 3rd term. It does not preclude him from running for vice president and eventually serving as president if the situation arose. Actually, Mose, I think it does preclude him. I believe it's the language in the 22nd Amendment that says no one can run for vice president who is not eligible to be the president.
Exactly. 22nd Amendment makes that pretty clear. If you're not eligible to run for president, you can't run for vice president.
And so if J.D. Vance were to run and he was like, hey, Mr. Trump, why don't you be my vice presidential candidate? Trump, by the way the Constitution is generally understood and generally interpreted, would not be eligible to be president, and therefore he would not be eligible to be the vice president on the ticket. Walter in Tupelo, the fact that this conversation is happening is sad. Is it sad or is it smart? I mean, Donald Trump is a lot of things. A lot of things. Dumb is not one of them. He's not a dumb guy. He wasn't dumb in business, he's not dumb in negotiation, and he's not dumb in presidential politics.
You get a bunch of those lawyers pointing toward working against this rather than all the other things that they're going after. So maybe that's one of the calculated risks he's using here, is just to get them focused on some other legal means rather than other things that he'd like getting done.
CC in Senatobia says, I think Trump does that simply to make liberals scream so hard they get a nosebleed. He's stirring the pot. He knows what he's doing. He's trying to move the media off the Signal chat controversy. All of those things coming up. Somebody sent us a message that says FDR. I literally started this conversation by talking about FDR as the only president to serve more than 2 terms in the White House. Darren says, I think he's just gigging the media and his detractors. What about the House or the Senate and other appointed positions? That's Kirk in Carroll County. Yeah, we're simply talking about the president or the presidency. Jim in Ripley says Trump is doing what he does best. He is trolling. It's to distract. It's a counterpunch, if you will, to the Signal leak of classified material. And it's kind of what we said at the beginning there. He's moving the target. Causing the defense to take its eyes off the ball. Some coaches call it eye candy, right? You want to cause the defense's eyes to try and get out of place where they don't have good eye discipline. Somebody says only way to possibly do it, he could be appointed as Speaker of the House, and if the President and Vice President resigned, maybe it would be legal for him to be President at that time.
A lot of maybes, and good luck with that one.
Quick timeout. This is Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
From the Beneville.
You're waking up to what's happening. Mornings with Richard Cross. Right now on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Robbing people with a zip gun. I fought the law and the law won. I fought the law and the law won. I needed money 'cause I had none. I fought the law and the law won.
First up, it was Columbia. Now potentially Harvard. Among the schools whose leadership testified on Capitol Hill to defend their approach to campus protests, the Trump administration announced yesterday to do a comprehensive review of the federal grants and contracts awarded to Harvard University as part of its efforts to crack down on anti-Semitism on college campuses. The Departments of Education and Health and Human Services, along with the General Services Administration, will review more than $250 million in funding that they have with the school and its affiliates. The announcement did not suggest that the agencies had cut or were going to cut or suspend funds to Harvard yet. The review includes the more than $8.7 billion in multi-year grant commitments to Harvard and its affiliates. Education Department officials say the purpose of the review is to make sure that the university is in compliance with federal regulations, including its civil rights responsibilities. You know that Linda McMahon is the Secretary of Education. Perhaps her biggest job right now is trying to find a way to dismantle the Department of Education. She said Harvard has served as a symbol of the American dream for generations, the pinnacle aspiration for students all over the world to work hard and earn admission to the storied institution. Harvard's failure to protect students on campus from anti-Semitic discrimination all while promoting divisive ideologies over free inquiry, has put its reputation in serious jeopardy. Anti-Semitism is the tool that this administration is using to try to strip away some of the federal funding for what has become more and more liberal, air quote, elite universities. So you remember, Columbia's funding was frozen. When that happened, Harvard announced that it was going to have a hiring freeze. And then Columbia acquiesced to this administration. They may have believed that it was a game of chicken, but they were the ones that swerved first, agreeing to comply with a set of demands for the administration, such as banning face masks during protests on campus and changing how students are disciplined. The school said that it would be willing to place or agreed to place its Middle Eastern, South Asian, and African Studies departments and the Center for Palestine Studies under the authority of a new senior vice provost. Trump's administration called Columbia, they gave Columbia credit for taking a positive first step, but they also have not indicated that they will restore the funding. Ted Mitchell, not that he's really important in this story, but he had something to say about it. He's the president of the American Council on Education. It's a big group that represents universities. Said the move to review the contracts is part of the administration's playbook, which involves accusing institutions of supporting an anti-Semitic culture. And goes on to say those grants are completely unrelated to what Harvard did or didn't do around protecting its Jewish students. These threats do not protect a single Jewish student, faculty, or staff member. I both agree and disagree with Mitchell. I agree that the grants are completely unrelated to how Harvard and other schools like Harvard handled on-campus protests. But I don't agree that the threats don't protect a single Jewish student, faculty, or staff member. It's just a tangential protection. It's not an immediate protection. Right? So the administration is saying, we're going to review what you did, and if we see you violating student protections, if we see you allowing anti-Semitism on your campus, then we are going to revoke your funding. Now, does revoking funding protect those Jewish students or faculty members? No. But if the threat of the revoking the funding and the list of changes that the administration wants to see Harvard make in the way it handles similar situations leads to less anti-Semitism, leads to more open protests, leads to more law and order on college campuses, then it does indirectly protect those students. Right, smart guy says something smart, but then he immediately follows it up with something dumb because he thinks you're not smart enough to see that he's making two divergent points. Right? The grants are unrelated to protecting students. This is just their playbook. Sure. But indirectly, if the administration sees the changes that it wants to see on campuses like Columbia, Harvard, Princeton, University of Pennsylvania, and maybe even public campuses, University of Michigan, UCLA, and others, then they got what they wanted. And therefore, the funding for those grants is kind of related to student protection. You got to use your brain a little bit. And you got to read, and I'm speaking to myself as well. Like, I'm trying to read critically. Lance, I know you do that well. You see through and sift through a lot of the BS sometimes. But you can't just read a story regardless of where that story comes from, whether it's an organization that you believe is right-leaning or left-leaning. You can't just read the story and take what they say at face value and then allow them to, I'm using them very liberally here, allow them to throw something in that says, see, this doesn't make any sense. You got to think through it.
Well, if you go in with it looking for the truth and digging around, and there's nobody that's protected from the truth, right? So all you want to do is get to the bottom of everything and try to see through the junk and the talking points and say, what's real here? And that's hard sometimes. That's not easy.
Yeah. Somebody says there's a large fraction of the future college-going population that doesn't want to deal with that kind of protest culture on campus. Look up the Wall Street Journal article that says move over Harvard. Everybody wants to go to college in the South now. That's Will and Madison.
Well,
you're hearing a lot about the enrollment cliff in higher education, right? That colleges have spent so much money and it has become so expensive and student loan debt is so massive that we are going to get to a point where, because two factors. One, you've got all those things, right? The cost and the climate. But also you have fewer college-age students coming up. Like, there's a population issue that Elon Musk has talked about a lot when he says, please go have babies. Universities in liberal states and extremely liberal campuses are going to have to deal more significantly with the enrollment cliff than places like Ole Miss and Mississippi State and Auburn and Alabama and Clemson and the University of South Carolina, University of Tennessee in Knoxville, Georgia in Athens. And it's a pretty long list of schools in the South. But the thing that you have going here is you go to one of these college campuses in the Southeastern Conference footprint, and you got a couple of things happening. You have large numbers of students from the Northeast saying, man, that looks fun. They're winning football games. They're winning basketball games. They got a beautiful campus. It's not quite as expensive. Let's go down there. They know how to party. You got that, and you've got parents who are amenable to it because they don't necessarily want their kids thrown into the liberal fishbowl that a lot of these universities have become. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't have free thinking and free teaching and divergent views on these college campuses. You do, even in the South. But it's not as deeply systematic as it is a lot of places in a lot of other parts of the country. Secretary of State Michael Watson joins us next. Segment of Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
Waking up Mississippi. From South Haven to Scuba, it's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
I can tell by the way you smile when you're rolling back. Come wash the night time clean. Come grow the scorched ground green.
Good to be with you on this Tuesday morning, the first day of the month of April. It is April Fool's, but no fooling here. It's an election day in the state of Mississippi. The Secretary of State, Michael Watson, joins us this morning. Municipal elections happening all across the state of Mississippi. Good morning, Mr. Secretary.
Good morning, my friend. I hope all of our Mississippians who live in cities have done their homework and are getting ready to go vote if they haven't already. So excited about this beautiful election day.
Yeah, you worry about weather on Election Day sometimes, especially we talk about that in November. It's not a great forecast. It may hinder turnout. I don't think we've got any excuses from a weather standpoint. Absolutely gorgeous all over the state. And you really hope, I know this is something that you have been preaching any opportunity you've had, that people are engaged in their local elections, because local politics are certainly as important as national politics in our daily lives, but arguably more so.
Yeah, I would say more so in daily lives. Look, you think about your policemen, your firemen, you think about your garbage collection, you think about your water and sewer, the things that impact your life every single day. Those are decisions that are made at the local level. Now, yeah, does the state impact us? Does the Fed impact us? Of course. But on an everyday basis, I think municipal elections are so very important, because that's your life. That's your family, your neighbors. It's going to impact them all the time. So it's important that we make sure we do our research on the candidates, what they're talking about, what they've done, their careers, and are they ready to serve us? And I think that's what recipients should deserve. Folks that want to serve, that aren't here to make a name for themselves, but are here to do something good for the communities.
So when we have a national election, or in the off 2 years when we have a gubernatorial election, you've got a lot of historical data to look at to kind of gauge turnout and maybe even predict turnout a little bit. How do you do that with municipal elections?
It's hard, Richard, especially following an election as big as last year was for the future of our country. Folks get a little bit of fatigue, I think. They hear all the commercials and they see all the signs, and I hope that it doesn't happen. Unfortunately, it does sometimes. But again, just turning the focus back to the municipal elections and how important they are. That's what we've tried to do. We've got our Elections 101 campaign and other efforts that we make to really educate Mississippians on the process, not just the process, but the importance of every level of elections and why they matter. Yeah, you're right. Unfortunately, we get a little bit tired of elections, and then, oh my gosh, we got another one. But this is one that's really, really important, and we say that every time because they are. Elections matter. It's the folks that you're hiring to do a job for you, and if they're not doing a good job, then send them home. And I think that's the part where people forget about the accountability that comes with elections.
Why do we have municipal elections, primaries in April, and then general? When is the general? June? Is that right?
Yeah, it's a legislative, set with the statute. So back when they designed it, I'm not exactly sure what the thinking was. I know the budget issue is one with local municipalities, and when they got to have their budgets in. So getting them in office prior to budget time is one of the issues. I'm not exactly sure the others that went into that thinking, but obviously it's a legislative prerogative.
Is that something that if you found yourself at some point in the future in a different position, a position of power, that you would look at where you think it would make more sense perhaps to move our municipal elections to November to help with the turnout conversation we're having?
I don't think you take anything off the table of what to look at, Richard. I think that's an important part of leadership. Can we do things better? Let's take a look. How do we do things better? And when it comes to elections, let's talk to our city officials. Let's talk to our county officials, our legislators, everybody from the bottom up to see what's best. And if the current schedule works the best for them, then so be it. If not, if we do something a little bit better, so be it. We've had our congressional members come to us talking about moving their primaries up. So that's an issue that's in the legislature right now. So it happens with listening to the folks that are impacted. And, most importantly, that's the voters. So today is their day. To make sure that they can tell whether or not they've been listened to. And if they've not been listened to, then they can send folks home. So, again, big election day today.
I heard you chuckle as I asked that question. Was there something I said that was funny?
No, dropping the kids off at school today, so the girls were cutting up in the back.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what it was. Visiting with Secretary of State Michael Watson. There are so many of these across the state, and so I hesitate to ask this because of singling out. But you're aware of what's going on, where there are big mayoral races, where there are big city council or alderman races. Are there any that kind of pop off the page to you that you've heard more about than maybe in other places?
Yeah, I heard a lot about, obviously, Jackson. Richard, it's so important that we have a great capital city. So I hope the city of Jackson and all the citizens of Jackson have paid attention to the last few years and decide, you know what, this is probably not the direction that's best for us nor the states. Let's go make a change. You look at Gulfport. You look at, it's a big city on the coast. Philly Hughes, a great friend of mine, is stepping out, and we've got a new mayor coming in down there. All over the place. I could name a bunch of them. And by the way, Richard, I think it's also important for folks to know we also see hot spots sometimes where people say, you know what, I've got something going on in this election. I want to make sure the Secretary of State's here. So we get calls. So we'll have a baker's dozen or so folks out today in different cities watching these elections, making sure that people aren't trying to subvert the will of the people nor break election laws. So just a warning to those who are out there that they want to, maybe do something that's not legal in elections. You're being watched. And I think that's an important part of election integrity. It's not just talking about it; it's being in the precinct and enforcing it.
I know it's something that we have discussed a lot with J.T. Mitchell, our news director. He has kind of run down this is who's qualified to vote, this is how you do it, but just give us kind of the standard Election Day 101, what people need to know as they go to vote in their local municipal elections.
Yeah, most importantly, take your ID. Number one, I think that's so important and something that Mississippi's been really successful with implementing voter ID. Back in the legislature when we voted that in after the initiative referendum ran, Secretary of State's office back there, your husband, did a great job of implementing it. So that's been a really success and a credit to the legislature as well as the former Secretary of State of getting that done. So that's a big deal. Make sure you've done your research. Make sure that you have, taken a look at, hey, look at my ward when it comes to a city, my district. What's changed? Is it better? Is it worse? And then, if you're not sure where you go vote, we've got some cities this year that have combined their locations for their precincts. Moss Point, for instance, everyone's going to vote at Pelican Landing. So you've got some cities, Oxford. I know Oxford votes at the Convention Center. Don't let me mess people up there. But these combined locations. So if you've got questions about where you go vote, number one, call your city clerk. Number two, if they're not answering, call our office. We'll make sure that you get to the right place. And we've got our My Election Day tool up on our website. So lots of information out there. But I just encourage people, again, do your research and hold people accountable on Election Day.
I'm curious if you have seen an evolution over the last decade and a half. And I think this is germane when we talk about municipal elections because historically, Mississippi was a state that had more Democrats than Republicans in public office. And there were lots and lots of people that over time, even if their political leanings shifted, maybe from Democrat to Republican, they continued to run as Democrats because there was this belief that you can't win in a local election unless you had a D next to your name. Have you seen that shift over the time that you've been in public office?
I have. I think there are limited instances where you'll see somebody run as an independent, where there's still kind of that party sway back and forth. So let me get in the middle and see if I can track both. But I'll tell you, in a bigger conversation, Richard, and this would probably be another topic one day. But just because somebody switches parties doesn't necessarily mean they switch their views. They sometimes switch parties to make sure they get elected again. So I think as voters, again, that's where it comes into watching how people vote. Just because they tell you they're a Republican or they're a Democrat or they're conservative or they're liberal, go watch their voting pattern. And that's what's going to tell you what you need to know. So let's not get comfortable just because somebody says R or D. Let's look at how they vote and look at their record.
So a title does not necessarily equal an ideology.
Unfortunately, I think we see that far too often. There was matter of fact, Frank Corder put a post up the other day. He was talking about how people always talk about how red Mississippi is, how conservative Mississippi is, and you look at things like, let's say, parental choice in education, the Tebow bill, for instance. I mean, school districts didn't even have to do that, but we couldn't get it passed. That's a conservative, just a bedrock issue that should be really easy for supermajority-led Republican House and Senate. But look, I could dig more, but I thought the list was pretty good that he had put out there. It just goes to show, just because somebody says there are, and we've got a supermajority, doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get pure conservative policies moving forward.
Michael Watson, Secretary of State, Election Day. If you have any issues, the website to go to your office, give it to me one more time.
Yes, sos.ms.gov. And please do your best today to make sure you keep your eyes open. If you see something that looks a little bit off, let us know. I think election integrity is so incredibly important to our state. So if you see something that's a little bit off, we want to know about it.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Have a good day.
From the Venable.
Want to know what's happening in Mississippi politics?
Yes.
You're in the right place. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Got there.
Joe Bonamassa, Feeling Bad Blues. Great song, and he tears it up.
He's getting after it.
Oh, yeah. He was one of those child phenoms. He just could play, and that's all he's done is just tear it up. He was in Jackson recently, if I remember.
Did you say child phenom like a...
like he was like 12.
Like a Marcus King? No?
Yeah, he's like 10 or 12, and the guy was playing that. I mean, that's how good it sounded when he was there, when he was young. And really great musician. One of those you probably haven't heard of, but Joe Bonamassa, excellent stuff there.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Randy Tutor is the chief of police in Pontotoc, and he is president of the Mississippi Association of Chiefs of Police. He will join us in the 8 o'clock hour this morning. Going to start things off with him about 10 minutes from right now. We talked some yesterday about the hemp legislation that has emerged from conference with the conferees from the House and the Senate, and I guess could or maybe will be headed for a floor vote in the near future, depending on which way the houses go with that. We're going to talk with him because my understanding is that this is a bill that is of great concern to law enforcement, and we will get his perspective on that. I meant to do this a couple of weeks ago when I first saw this, and I put it in a folder and I just forgot about it. There are a lot of people that like the idea of buying American-made. I think most people recognize that even when you say, made in the USA, there's a possibility that parts or systems or, some portion of what you're buying is made elsewhere. And, we get that. It's a global trade economy, at least for now it is, and that's how it's going to go. But there are some people who, having that American flag tag in their shirt, and this was a big thing in the late 80s, made in America. What about vehicles? Would you care to take a guess which vehicles are built most in the United States?
I know the answer.
Where cars sold in America are made by brand. I think the answer to the first one is pretty simple. Elon Musk's Tesla. 100% of Tesla vehicles are made in America. There's such a mind pretzel right now as it pertains to Tesla. Now, you might think, and we probably all should think, that categorizing who drives what car has to do with political leanings. But I think most would agree that early adopters of Tesla, battery-powered cars, electric vehicles, were more Democrat than Republican. Not exclusively, but more than. Because it was a way to save the planet and show that you were green and all of those things. The Republicans that, this is painting with such a broad brush, but the Republicans that bought Teslas largely were buying them for performance and maybe fiscal reasons. But now, as Elon Musk has become far more to the right, shocking to Democrats, you have Democrats and insurrectionists who are vandalizing Teslas at an alarming rate. What about after Tesla? You know, you have your big American brands. 77% of the Ford vehicles that you buy in America were built in America. Would you believe that General Motors is only about half? 52% of GM automobiles that you buy in the United States of America were made here. That means 48% were made somewhere else. Nissan, 52% made in America. Toyota, 48%. And Volkswagen, only 21%. For GM in particular, 30% of their vehicles are made in Canada and Mexico, and then the other 18% just elsewhere. Stellantis is 57% made in the United States. Kia, 33%. So if you want to buy American, Tesla and Ford, I guess, your best options. 8 o'clock hour coming up next. This is Mornings with Richard Cross.
Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Welcome to the show.
We are just rolling right along on this Tuesday morning. This is Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi. Thanks for being with us. If you want to join the conversation, you're welcome to do so on the C Spire text line at 601-879-4395. Looking for game-changing technology? You need C Spire on your team. 5G wireless, fiber home internet, and business IT solutions built as tough as you. Learn more at cspire.com. C Spire, inspired by you. Picking up a conversation that we started yesterday with regard to legislation that went to conference and emerged from conference in the legislature on Friday and was quickly disseminated to law enforcement and other people across the state of Mississippi, and the reaction was concerning, I think. Randy Tutor joins us. He is chief of police in Pontotoc. He's president of the Mississippi Association of Chiefs of Police. Chief Tutor, good morning. Thanks so much for your time.
Good morning. Glad to be here.
So let's just kind of jump into this. I spoke with law enforcement officials on Friday afternoon who were trying to work their way through the 247-page PDF that came out of conference in the legislature, and it would regulate but also allow hemp-related products to be sold in convenience stores, gas stations, and other retail establishments. And my understanding is that this is something that's very concerning to law enforcement. Where are you on this?
Well, we've been in talks with different people about this, and the chiefs across the state do have concerns. Of course, now, we've got a lot of different things that are coming out of the convenience stores. I like to call them convenience store pharmacies. We've got some crazy stuff out there. We fought the battle with Kratom and things like that. And there's still, we get something, we get an ordinance against one thing, and they change the recipe, and there's something different that our ordinance doesn't apply to. So we've been fighting the battle for several years. As far as, our big concern now is of course, the hemp drinks. I think 1502, House Bill 1502, it does, try to get some of the stuff that I'm talking about in these convenience stores. It does help us in that fact. But we go back, you got the hemp drink.
Right.
1502 basically says the hemp drink is a light wine, light beer, whatever. They'll be regulated just like beer. So
let me stop you there and ask you a question about that. So you have alcohol percentage content limits on beer and light wine that can be sold, and those are regulated. This is not alcohol. This is THC limits that are part of these hemp drinks. And I think it's a maximum of 0.3% in terms of content by volume. What does that mean when you look at that in terms of impairment for people that are driving or in public areas?
Well, I mean, basically, just like you said, the alcohol percentage-wise and all that. I'm not a chemist. I don't know. All I know is THC is involved in the hemp drinks. No matter what the percentage is, that's not going to stop that guy from drinking more than he's supposed to. So, that's one of the problems that I have with it, as far as coming out of a convenience store, and there's not. You can go in there and buy whatever you want to buy, and that 0.3 is per can, per bottle, however it's packaged. But that's not going to have an effect when that person drinks more than he should. I mean, he's going to be intoxicated.
Sure. And I mean, I guess it would apply differently to different people, but in the same way that one person can drink 3 beers and it has no real effect on them, but 12 does, whereas 1 can of hemp drink or 2 or whatever might have an effect on somebody, but they still might drink 8 of them or 6 of them. And I may be speaking ignorant when I explain it that way, but I guess the principle or the idea remains the same.
Absolutely. And that's one of the concerns. And then there's, of course, 1502 addresses some of the manufacturing stuff and how much supposedly, because right now you've got stuff in these convenience stores that you might go by. There might be 2 items sitting side by side that are packaged exactly the same. And if you do send it to be tested, probably those 2 things are not going to have the same amount of THC in them. It'll be different, because most of that stuff is not regulated whatsoever.
But that's part of this bill, right? I mean, there's supposed to be regulation and testing and uniformity. Do you think this will actually do that? If the regulation is put in place, is that going to solve the problem of what is in the drink, all of the ingredients that are in the drink, and the levels? Will it be consistent?
Well, if the way the bill's written, it should do that. It should do that. Now, I'll say this: I'm gonna speak as the chief of Pontotoc, not as the president of the association.
All right.
We had a when medical marijuana, when we voted on that, when that was passed, each city and county had the option to opt out or opt in. We had a clear mandate here in the city, and we don't have dispensaries, and we don't have any. We opted completely out of medical marijuana here in Pontotoc. Other cities opted in, of course, but we had a clear mandate here. One of the things, and I'm gonna go to the Chiefs Association. We've been in discussions, and actually we met with some legislators yesterday, and had a discussion about 1502, and basically, as far as the Chiefs Association is concerned, what we asked for to be put in the bill was to have a local option.
An opt-out.
So exactly, if Pontotoc, in 1502, if it goes into effect, we want the option to say, we just don't want it here, period.
Right. But as the bill exists right now, that option does not exist. There is no opt-out that is in the bill as it exists right now, correct?
That's correct. And part of that opt-out language that we wanted to do, of course, on medical marijuana, you had to have a referendum. You had to have a vote, a citywide vote. And we've plowed that ground with medical marijuana. So one of the things that we asked for as an association is that opt-out language should be that we present the case to the city council or the board of aldermen, and they make the decision without a referendum.
Does it feel to you like the legislature is listening to law enforcement? In the perfect world, and I'm speaking as chief of Pontotoc, and I think I'm also speaking as the president of the association. Perfect world, we would say, of course, there was a bill introduced. I don't know what the number was. There was a bill introduced earlier in the session that completely done away with all of it, and that measure died. You're talking about hemp
now
products.
We're at the point where, right.
Okay.
And now we're at the point where the bill, don't get me wrong, the bill is good in some sense as far as it gets rid of a lot of stuff. But just like one of our chiefs said yesterday, we're doing away with some of it, but we're not doing away with all of it.
Sure.
So,
Chief, unfortunately, we are out of time. We're up against a break. I thank you so much for your time this morning.
From the Find out what's happening across your state. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
All right, back with you. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi, streaming at supertalk.fm and SuperTalk TV. My thanks to Randy Tutor, Chief of Police in Pontotoc and President of the Mississippi Association of Chiefs of Police, joining us, talking a little bit about House Bill 1502, which is out of conference. 3 conferees from both the House and Senate side coming together, and to call it, well, maybe I'm too simple-minded, but calling it a simple bill would be a gross understatement. It's over 240 pages, and it's ultimately an amendment to the code of 1972. And, I mean, the crux of this is the regulation of and legalizing the sale of in convenience stores of hemp products that fall within certain restrictions, right? That follow certain guidelines. And it allows it to be there. I mentioned to you yesterday that I had a legislator that said, and it's a legislator who obviously is against this and was against the Kratom stuff, who said this is legalized recreational marijuana product. Now, we're not calling it marijuana. We're not calling it cannabis. We're calling it hemp product. But it's hemp drink with a concentration of up to 0.3% THC. And it's edibles and other things that are be available in gas stations. And you got a couple of things at play there, right? You've got, well, you can't sell it to anyone under 21. And that's kind of a catch-all, right? We all know that nobody, no gas station, no clerk ever sells any product to anyone that is under the proper age to be able to buy that product. It just doesn't happen. Right? Right? Nobody under 21 is ever able to buy beer in a convenience store. Nobody under 18 is ever able to buy cigarettes in a convenience store. Nobody can buy smokeless tobacco when they're under 18 in a convenience store. Can't happen, right? Oh, wait. Lance, did you know anybody growing up that was able to buy beer before they were 21 years old?
Yeah. It's happened before, huh? I knew.
Yeah,
I saw it personally.
Maybe.
Well, and the other side of that, too, is there's that loophole in the Farm Bill that basically takes a marijuana product because of the percentages, 0.3, and removes it from the controlled substance, which now basically, you're dealing with a like product that one is regulated and the other one basically is a free-for-all. And the removal of the definition of marijuana and hemp, those two being tied together, is one of your issues because they're basically one and the same if you're talking THC, I suppose. I mean, I'm no chemist, but THC is your active ingredient. And only because it's below a certain amount. You say, well, it's not marijuana anymore. And it's not subject to the certain rules in place that would govern that. So it's a whole other, under the Farm Bill, allows the cultivation of it. He's like, well, okay.
No, I'm not laughing. I saw Keith in Monticello's message pop up. He said, I had a charge account at a liquor store when I was 17.
Yeah.
Oh.
You don't want to let them know which one that one was, but...
yeah, no, not at all.
But yeah, the other side is, again, the protection of the consumer, and especially, young folks coming in there and getting stuff that they don't know what it is and think they know what it is, and they don't. And everybody else coming in there and buying it too,
Look.
And is that really the place that you want it to be sold, I guess?
And that's where it is for me. So, I guess if you're listening to this, you're like, oh, Richard he's against all the vices, wants to ban them all. That's not true. That's not true.
I just think you got to be on a level playing.
Yeah, I didn't have a super strong opinion one way or the other on medical marijuana or the legalization of marijuana. Now, when it comes to recreational marijuana, hey, Richard, are you for that or against it? I'm against it, and here's why. It doesn't really have anything to do with what you do to your body or personal choice. It has to do with me walking down the street with my kids having to smell a skunk every step of the way. And it's...
and the danger, too.
It's revolting. Like, I get that it's dangerous, but, like, if you just say, Richard, why are you against legalizing recreational marijuana? Because I don't want my kids smelling that every time they walk down a sidewalk in town or in a street or everywhere they go. And if you've been to a big city, in recent years, that's what it smells like. You can't walk half a block in New York City without feeling like you're getting knocked over by the smell of smoke from marijuana.
It's all skunks, man. Come on.
You can't walk a block in Miami without smelling it. You can't be on the beach without smelling it, and it's annoying. And it's frankly not a fun conversation to have with a 3-year-old or a 5-year-old or a 7-year-old who goes, "What is that smell? That's awful." "Oh, that's the guy smoking weed next to us. Sorry, you're just going to have to live with it." So yeah, I'm against the recreational use, but I don't really care if you are an adult who chooses to partake, whether it's smoking marijuana or taking gummies or hemp products or whatever else. But I am concerned about the lack of regulation in it. And so I'm not picking on Thomas here. I'm really not, because I know I pick on Thomas sometimes. But he's like, well, then we ought to just take beer and cigarettes and tobacco and everything out. It's different, though. Those are highly regulated industries. Now, your dispensaries are highly regulated. So if you want to say, hey, we're going to legalize these hemp products, whether it's for medical use or recreational use, whatever, but they can only be sold in dispensaries, I would be more okay with that than I am every Tom, Dick, and Harry gas station on every corner at every intersection in the state of Mississippi. You walk in and you can basically buy weed over the counter in there, assuming you are over 21, or if you've got the right clerk working on that day, or a buddy that works there, or you've established a relationship and they're willing to sell it to you. And by the way, police can't control that. They can control it on a micro level. They can't control it on a macro level. Like, there's no way to stop the sale of underage products or products to underage partakers. But here's the other thing. We are in a different climate with regard to the dangers of drug use than we've ever been before. Cocaine has always been addictive, right? We know that. It's always been addictive. But the cocaine of the 1970s, I can't believe I'm saying this the way I'm saying it. Lance, you tell me if I'm wrong. You tell me if I'm wrong here. But generally speaking, the cocaine of the 1970s is different than the cocaine of today, because the cocaine of the 70s was largely pretty pure. And now you have no idea what's in it. And when we're talking about overdose deaths and stuff being laced with fentanyl, it is everywhere.
Yeah, fentanyl. I mean, that's
and
the
you
one
have
you
no way to know. You have no way to control it. And so, yes, I'm not against you having free choice. If you want to inject drugs into your body, whatever that, whether we're talking about marijuana or heroin or cocaine, I'm not going to fight you to try and keep you from doing that. But am I going to fight against drugs being readily available in convenience stores and gas stations all across the state of Mississippi, where they will end up in the hands of young people with no idea what is in them, even if the industry is regulated? Yeah, I'm against that. And this bill that the legislature, and I'm going to be honest, I do not know why the legislature is passing this. Except I do know why the legislature is passing it. It's because there's a powerful lobby behind this somewhere that is pushing it through, because it does not make sense to do this. It makes far more sense to say no hemp products in gas stations in the state of Mississippi, period. We got a problem, we're getting them out. If we want to regulate them and put them in a place where they are sold regulated, that's fine. We cannot regulate gas stations across the entire state of Mississippi selling hemp products. This is bad legislation.
From the White House to your hometown, this is where you find out what's happening. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Back with you. Thanks for being with us on this, what is today? Tuesday. This Tuesday morning. Glad to have you along. You can join the conversation on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395, 601-879-4395. C Spire, inspired by you. This issue, which it's fascinating. To me, this is really fascinating. This is a conversation and a bill that flew under the radar for the entire legislative session. You remember we had a conversation about Kratom a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago? But this hemp products bill has stayed below the radar, and it ended up in conference. And then you get a rewrite of the 1972 code that comes out in the form of a 47-page conference report on Friday afternoon. And all of a sudden, it's like the session is almost over. Is this going to the floor for a vote? And if it does, is it going to get pushed through? And it's like it becomes a hot-button issue that people are all of a sudden aware of at the very end of the session. Is that by design? I don't know the answer to that question. I will tell you this. There are people that are very much for this. They are for the regulation and the allowance of hemp products to be sold in gas stations across the state of Mississippi, gas stations, convenience stores. And we're going to hear from some folks that are on the other side of the issue. Philip Chambly of the Mississippi Petroleum Marketers and Convenience Store Association is hopefully going to join us tomorrow. He was sending us some messages on the C Spire text line, and I was like, I want to talk to you about this. I want to understand the other side of this issue. And one of the things that he pointed out was this bill, 1502, regulates what is legal under the federal law and gets rid of all the products which are not legal currently. It says the products are available in CBD stores and grocery stores as well. Yeah, and I'm using gas stations and convenience stores as a catch-all to say retail locations. There is a licensing process that is there for anybody that wants to sell all of these products. And they've got to pay a licensing fee on an annual basis. There is regulation that is tied to this. There's a lot that's there, but there are two very, very dug in sides to this issue as well. So we're going to continue the conversation. We absolutely are, and. Lance, can you tell me there's somebody else that we're going to try and get on tomorrow as well?
Lee Yancey.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Good.
Yep.
Good.
I'm working on it.
I want to look at all the sides of this. I want to understand all the sides of this, and make sure that we are covering. Make sure we're covering our bases.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we just.
And I tell you who else we might reach out to. I tell you who else, and I don't know that it's going to happen this week. But my friend David McGee has been he lost a son to an overdose and has written a book about it, the book Dear William. It's an incredibly moving story. Has really honored William's life with his work over the last couple of years. And Ole Miss is doing some really good things for students in terms of resources and education. But the example of William McGee and so many others is even when you think you know what you're getting, you really don't know what you're getting when it comes to drugs. Now, there also are others, and I'm sure there's somebody that's listening right now that goes, that's not the same thing, Richard. It's not the same thing. We're not talking about illegally purchased drugs on the black market. We're talking about highly regulated hemp products. Well, we do know, and we know this from a conversation with Jeff McCutcheon. He pointed this out when he's the chief of police in Oxford, was on with us a few weeks ago, is that the unregulated products, you got no idea what's in them. If it is not regulated, you have no clue. And the example he used, he said, we took multiple products that were exactly the same, labeled exactly the same on the same shelf, and sent them off to the state crime lab and have them and had them test. And the THC levels were different in the two products, not to mention the other things that you had no idea what they were or where they came from that were in there. Traces of pesticides, traces of formaldehyde, traces of other chemicals where you're like, why is this in something you're ingesting? So maybe the regulation and the testing takes care of all of that. That certainly is the goal of the bill, or one of the goals of the bill. And let's not hide from the fact that when you purchase these products at a convenience store or a CBD store or a supermarket, wherever they're available, they are expensive and they are significant profit centers for these retailers. Period. Like that, that's part of it. So, we will continue this conversation. It's important. I think it's important. And we'll continue to roll. You want to be part of the conversation? You can do so on the C Spire text line 601-879-4395. Thomas, man, you're just beating a dead horse at this point. When you hit me with, if we banned alcohol, we could end cirrhosis of the liver. Come on, Coach. Come on, man.
Yeah, well, and I mean, you're probably right, but I mean, you could say that about anything. I mean, if you banned eggs, if somebody, you can ban anything.
Look, I know it sounds like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth when I say this, but as a general rule, I am not against legislating morality. I'm not. Like, when you are an adult, I think you should have the ability to choose what you want to do with your body as it pertains to what you ingest. Like, it's not my job to tell you what you should and shouldn't put in your body.
Well, wasn't it?
Assuming it only affects you.
Yeah, what is it? Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes said, my rights end where the other man's fist begins. So basically, you can't just do whatever you want because it affects others.
I'm fine with you doing for you what you want to do as long as it only affects you. But if it affects somebody else or somebody else's kids or my kids, I'm concerned about that as a parent. And Thomas, you have pointed this out. Oh, we use children as like this is the great, it's okay to fix it if it affects kids. Well, guess what? All right. Yeah. I'm for that.
Well, again,
I'm for protecting our children.
Well, but I mean, if people started dying from eating eggs, that's when you need government, correct? Because who's going to fix that, Richard? People whose cars start blowing up because the gas in it is tainted with something or whatever. That's when you need government to step in and do something, is to protect the people that otherwise would not be protected. So what are you going to do here? You're just going to let something roll that may be dangerous. It's not necessarily being labeled, and we don't know what's in it, but yet everything else and our society is regulated. Now, again, I like hands-off and laissez-faire, type stuff. But if it is going to affect people in a way in which they can die, then I believe you need to be honest in what's in the package, period. And a difference between hemp and THC and where it can be sold. I think those things just need to be clear. Because as the chief said, a lot of gas stations seem to have turned into little pharmacies.
Yeah.
And is that really the intent of the law?
We are going to take a timeout. We will put a bow on this edition of Mornings with Richard Cross coming up in just a couple of minutes. We got a busy rest of the week. Feels like it just got busy.
Yeah, it feels like Friday already.
There were plans for the next couple of days. Those plans, we are reshuffling the deck just a little bit. We want to be topical. And clearly this is an issue that has touched a nerve. And it needs light. We need to shine a bright light on this and make sure that we are looking at this bill that is about to come out of the legislature, has already come out of a conference, and make sure we're aware of what's in it. Make sure the people of Mississippi know what's in it. We're back with you. We'll wrap it up after this.
Right. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Hey lady, got the love I need. Maybe more than enough. Oh darling, 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 walk a while with me. Oh, you got so much, so much.
Good to be with you this morning. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi. Hopefully the place that we can have the conversations that are happening all across the Magnolia State, both in the halls of the legislature and at your kitchen table. Richard Cross, Lance Tolbert with you. I want to tell you about my friends at Genteel Apparel. If you are not familiar with this company, then let me introduce you. Their website is genteelapparel.com, and their spring inventory has now fully arrived, and it is fantastic. Whether you're looking for polos, shorts, swimwear, lightweight pants that look just as good at the office as they do at dinner or on the golf course, or casual clothes also, they've got it all. And they are a Mississippi company that is growing like kudzu, like fast as it can go in places you never imagined it would be. That's what Genteel's doing. They've been a partner with us at SuperTalk Mississippi for a long time, and I'd love for you to check out their website. And if you've never tried one of their polo shirts or their shorts, I have long said, and Lance, I don't know how big of a shorts guy you are.
Big time.
I think Genteel makes the best, like khaki, navy blue, light gray, just everyday shorts that you can find from any brand. I've tried a lot of them.
Did they do jorts yet? Have they done the jean shorts?
No.
I'm kidding. But hey, I remember it was a couple weeks ago, Haydad was fired up about the jacket that he had gotten or something.
It's really good stuff.
Yeah.
They've got great pullovers. They've also got a collegiate collection. So if you're an Ole Miss fan, Southern Miss fan, Mississippi State fan, you can get Genteel apparel that's got those logos, the good logos on there. They're small and not big gaudy logos, and you don't have athletic apparel logos beside them. Just good-looking stuff from great people, Mississippi company. Would love for you to support them. GenteelApparel.com. That's GenteelApparel.com.
I look pretty good in my stuff. I mean, honestly, I have to brag when I put it on. It feels good. I look good.
Big fan. And I'm not because, I'm not paid to say I'm a big fan at all. One of the most disgusting things you will hear in an interview came from 60 Minutes over the weekend. Leslie Stahl, longtime reporter with 60 Minutes and CBS News, was interviewing one of the hostages that had been released, a Hamas hostage. And he was talking about his experience. Listen to the question that she asks in this one-on-one.
The terrorists became very mean and very cruel and violent.
More so.
Much more so. They were beating me and starving me.
Do you think they starved you, or they just didn't have food?
No, I think they starved me, and they would often eat in front of me and not off.
The gall. You have a former hostage who was held by Hamas that is relaying his experience of being beaten and starved while being held hostage for a really long time. And her follow-up question is, do you think they were really starving you, or did they just not have food to share? Good for him for keeping his cool. And for Keith Siegel is his name.
Don't think I could have
lashing out at her, but
I couldn't have held it together on that.
You are questioning whether what I'm saying is true? And the context of this is after the early ceasefire negotiations collapsed, the treatment by Hamas got worse. Listen to a little bit longer clip here.
Figurative sense.
They made you watch it?
Yeah. I saw sexual assault with female hostages.
Keith says things got worse for him after Aviva was released and that early ceasefire collapsed.
The terrorists became very mean and very cruel and violent.
More so.
Much more so. They were beating me and starving me.
Do you think they starved you, or they just didn't have food?
No, I think they starved me, and they would often eat in front of me and not offer me food.
Did they let you take shots?
That was Leslie Stahl from 60 Minutes interviewing Keith Siegel. Where does that come from? You're interviewing a hostage who is relating how the experience changed after the early ceasefire negotiations collapsed and some of the hostages were released. And he talks about witnessing sexual assault of females, witnessing females being beaten himself, and being starved. And her question is, well, are you sure they actually had food and they weren't just short on groceries and chose not to share with you? What a joke. Thanks for being with us. Mornings with Richard Cross. We're back at it tomorrow.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.